It is live, isn't it? We are live at the moment. It is, we are live, because one time last week I thought I was live and I wasn't, and then the live stream never actually started, so we're avoiding that today, which is good. Okay, the first story for today is America's Got Talent favorite Emily Gold dies by suicide shortly after earning standing ovation, which is terrible. That is a terrible start to music news. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of that. That's sad. Don't know what else there is to say about that, right? Tom Morello pokes fun at Elon Musk after Rage Against the Machine comment. Dua Lipa reveals why she doesn't get too personal in her music. Do we care? We care. Like, why does Dua Lipa not get too personal with her music? During a 60 minutes interview with Anderson Cooper. It's something that I just naturally hold back, Lipa explains. Some people are just as ruthless with their own private life that they decide to put it all out in a song because they know that's going to attract people's attention. Fair. For me, it was always important to make music that people really loved, not because I was putting someone on blast or because I'm doing something for clickbait at someone else's expense. Right? Makes sense. You're not using people for content. You're dealing with your stuff the best way you can. Sounds reasonable to me, you know? To make sure that like my camera's okay with stuff. That's just set up nicely. That's good. There's no weirdness with the green screen today. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Water is Wet. People love her music. Oh, not JD Vance. Go away. Go away. She's also gearing up to embark on a 43-date world tour and support a radical optimism. So this is basically PR. It's effectively saying, hey, she doesn't get too personal, but also she has a tour coming up. Celebrities and politicians send Taylor Swift love after Donald Trump's hate message. Oh yeah, didn't Trump just say that he just flat out hated Taylor Swift? I'm sure she will lose sleep at night over that. I suppose the biggest fear is that something will happen that's quite violent because of one of the followers or whatever, but you know, whatever. Clearly, hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully Taylor Swift is all good. Nobody should be getting shot or anything like that. Scooter Braun responds, yep. So a lot of this is just, it's either political or it's Jane's Addiction cancels tour, taking a break after Perry Farrell throws punch at Dave Navarro during concert. How do you fuck it up that quickly? How do you fuck it up that quickly? All you have to do is not try to punch each other. How difficult is it? Wasn't it like, it was one of their first gigs, if I'm not mistaken? Is he on something? Is this guy Pharrell on something? Is that right? Because he must be. There's no reason for that behavior to be rational. Oh, okay. Harry's frustration had been mounting night after night. He felt that the stage volume had been extremely loud and his voice was being drowned out by the band. She continued, noting that her husband had been battling a sore throat and tinnitus. But when the audience in the first row started complaining up to Perry, cussing at him that the band was playing too loud and they couldn't hear him, Perry lost it. I see. So basically, a comment to the sound engineer about this that didn't occur because people, I suppose, maybe they were trying not to make a big deal out of it. Became a big deal because people didn't necessarily speak about it. Hello, Blue Dinner Box. How are you today? You doing well? Taking care of yourself? She went on to praise Navarro. It's like he broke down and cried and cried. Of course he did. The guy's clearly mentally unstable. But to be fair, also, I mean, like, if you're behaving like that on live stage, you know, Mariah Carey and Kanye concert in China was fire. That's great. It's really good that they had a good concert. What was your favorite moment from it? Yeah. Okay. That sucks. Rest in peace, Tito Jackson, I suppose. I assume he's passed away. That's really sad. Um, First for music news. Have we already checked this one? No, we haven't. We checked it a little while ago. Hello, Rufo. How are you doing? Welcome to the live stream. Hopefully you're well today. We are doing music news. I find it fascinating that the people also ask question is what is happening to the music industry? Although the music industry has continued to expand, overall growth has slowed down in comparison to previous years. This is partly due to the streaming market becoming increasingly saturated and partly because the companies had to find new ways to attract customers for growth beyond raising prices. So I feel like that metric for growth is not necessarily that that there are not more musicians or not more music. It's that there's not more centralized profits through the labels or something like that, like proportionate to the amount of music that's going out or something like that. I'm not sure. Like a per musician growth in revenues. Um, Considering the sway that labels have within digital streaming platforms like Spotify at this point, I'm surprised that they. I mean, like they. Hmm. Who is hot in music right now? Sabrina Carpenter, Shabuzi, Miles Smith, Billie Eilish, Hosier, Post Malone, Tommy Richmond, Teddy Swims. Yes, they seem like they're quite well for themselves. What's the latest new music? I don't know any of them. Oh, it's because they've put the song before the musician. So I know The Offspring and Charlie XCX. I mean, Blue Dinner Box has put forward a few of those tracks, as I understand it. I've been listening to a little bit of that recently. Um, Chincho Corleone solo album. Why is music declining? The onset of the digital age marked the commencement of the decline of the traditional music industry. With the proliferation of the internet, peer-to-peer file sharing, and the emergence of streaming platforms, the industry as at once gasped its final breath. That's a bit gross. It's not like having labels that were massive and put our musicians and artists into binding multi-album contracts for healthy. I don't know what they want. Do they want I suppose I got angry when less musicians started being I mean, honestly, like in this day and age, with the way the attention spans are and everything like that, um, would you want to even risk a 2 album contract if you weren't necessarily sure that you'd be able to get away with it? Even if you got a $500,000 to $1 million advance on it, primarily because of the fact that you, you couldn't necessarily commit to being that successful even over the course of like a year or two. I feel like regardless of whether or not labels had sway in that regard with social media, the current environment couldn't work because you either have hyper focused parasocial relationships with musicians and artists and stuff like that, or you have people who are legitimately there are some musicians who like Porter Robinson. I've been listening to them a bit more recently and they seem like they're pretty dope. They seem like they're pretty good vibes. They seem like they're kind of like a good sort of they're an interesting musician. And they seem to have like a healthy kind of relationship with their fan base and like they work stuff out and have navigating industry. But I feel like it's like propaganda suggesting that the music industry was better like in the last century when the moment that people could get more access to music and technology to be able to produce it, they did that. Like I feel like if it was so good the way it used to be, times wouldn't have necessarily changed when there were further opportunities to be able to do so. Um Yeah. It's an interesting question. Music news. Doichi is bringing Alligator Bites Never Heal tour to a swamp near you. Marcus Hoppus to Terry's Tell All when Rush gets dark. Um. All right. Shit gets dark. Okay, cool. So we just talked about that. I mean, like, it seems like Perry Farrell probably needs to just get some help if he's punching people on stage because he can't get his sound up. That's not me being judgmental, like, there's clearly some stuff going down and they need some help. And finally, Shakira walks off stage after scolding rude clubgoer for trying to film up her dress. Great. Uh, Emmys viewership jumps by 54% to 6.9 million viewers after record low ceremony in January. The Emmys brought an average 6.87 million viewers to ABC on Sunday night, made a 54% rise in total viewers from the record low 4.3 million who tuned into the most recent ceremony on Fox at the start of the year. Okay. Well, it seems like it might have been like the priority time of the year to be able to do that kind of stuff. Hmm. I had some music news anyways. Do you guys like use graphic cards in your computers? I've been trying to get my graphics card to behave itself in my computer. I have like I have a 3080 and it does all right, but I was wondering if I could just squeeze some performance out of it. And I'm realizing that the ray tracing kind of side of the card doesn't want to behave itself particularly well. I'm not getting the stability I need, so I've just been working on some kind of like how to describe it. Some like stuff like there's lots of programs like this superposition that you can use. Superposition's pretty good. I mean, like I put it up to AK optimized and got like it was pretty sort of stable with that. But what I found was outside of that, um, you guys are trying to sort of stability check your computer. I'd recommend the Port Royal test if you've got an RTX card because that stuff will show you. Like every single other, as well as Unigine Heaven. Heaven's pretty dope. Like that, if there's like big cuts in FPS, that's what'll do it. But hmm. Been thinking of doing videos on musicians for those that aren't as familiar with them. Um, I'll just make them and they'll go out and you guys will see it then. But I'm thinking if I was to, I didn't know anything about music. Like it'd be such easy stuff to make, right? Easy stuff to make. You just like for instance, like when I started getting to know musicians like David Tao and Jay Chow and stuff like that, I wish I just had like kind of like a video to kind of fill me in on it. To kind of give like an edited video where it kind of gave you like, I don't know, an entire Google's page worth of like information about them. But like edited so that you didn't necessarily have to find all that information yourself. Just to kind of give like a summation of it, of the person there. And I feel like I have students I work with and they watch content on YouTube that I make occasionally, but they don't necessarily know who these musicians are and it's very different music to them. And so I feel like if I was to make sort of shorter edited videos about musicians and like who are they, right? It might be good to do. And making subtitles for those would be fairly simple as well. I don't know. It's just stuff I'm considering at the moment, eh? Just low key. Thank you, Danahe, for your request. I appreciate that. What has Danahe got for us today? What have you got for us today? What track is it? Hey, I like Fly Me to the Moon. Fly Me to the Moon is one of my favorite tracks. It'll be interesting to see what Hikaru Utada does with it. Just like a dedicated piano piece. But yeah, Hikaru Utada, Fly Me to the Moon.
Thought and time and rhyme to make a poem sing with music and words I've been playing.
I don't think this is the same song I was thinking of initially.
I have written a song to be sure that you'll know what I'm saying. I'll translate as I go along. Fly me to
Oh no, it is.
the moon and let me play among the stars. Won't you let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars?
So they're trying to stick to the original theme, that's good.
In other words, hold my hand. In other words, darling, kiss me. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. 'Cause you are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you.
I don't know if I like it. I feel like it's sort of divorcing itself from the original in a way where it's trying to be different, but in a way where it kind of doesn't have the exact same harmonic flow that's quite satisfying as the original. I think it's cool that Hikaru Utada is trying to make their own version of this and that they're trying to do something interesting and unique with it. But I don't necessarily. I think maybe I'm biased simply because I'm very familiar with the original and I adore it. And the bow, 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 and that transition back into the original theme as well is just something I adore. And I'm wondering how we're going to sort of navigate that with this. Oh no, we kind of did it.
Please be true. In other words, yeah, 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 I love you. Oh, oh, to the moon. La, 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 la,
It's nice to have a bit of scatting in there, right? I have a student that came in and they say the end of the sentence, right. And I detest that I've picked that up because I hate it. I hate, no, right. I hate that phrasing, that way of structuring a sentence. Why am I asking for approval when I say a sentence? It's not a question. It's like a way of demonstrating that you're unsure of anything that you say. I think because this was Fly Me to the Moon, in other words, from Hikaru Utada. I appreciate, again, as I mentioned before, that they were trying to do something sort of unique and sort of very personal to them. And I think that it's a healthy decision because there are so many covers of this track that if you don't sort of strike out to again be more original, you just will get lost in the mist. And that is a shame when that occurs, right? Damn it, I said it again. I'm gonna purposefully try and get that out of my system. It will take a few tries, but we'll get there probably, I assume. So, again, like with Hikaru today, her vocals are sublime. Great singer. I liked the main leads. I liked the harmonies in the background, the softer background parts. I liked the scatting there, the voice is a melody or an instrument rather than a storytelling device. And I think that maybe in the first verse part, we're alluding to the poetry of the track and kind of going into the main is sort of like a, hey, no, this is the poetry that I was talking about before kind of aesthetic. And I think that's great. I think that technically it was proficient. I'm glad that we had the main hook line in there and that we did try and feature it in full. And it was elegant. And there was a lot of fun stuff happening with the vocals, beside how I might necessarily feel about how relevant or appropriate it was with the track. I'm not the arbiter of how a song should be played. I'm not the guardian of covers. It's not that at all. It's just more I'm just sort of looking for a sense of connection and meaningful attribution to the creative decisions that we make. I think that the layering of the guitar parts, the bass drums, the strings, everything else was fantastic. It was interesting to have the strings on one side and like a kind of a synthy thing going on the other at the beginning.
and rhyme to make.
Yeah, there's like an organ on the right side there with like the slow kind of build of those strings on we explored the stereo field well, and the production of this track, kind of like how I feel about the more recent Kingdom Hearts remix of Simple and Clean, right? It's a feat of majesty in regards to the way that things are allocated and structured and spread around the stereo field. It's just more that I don't know how it benefits the actual listening experience of the track. It's like we don't trust the listener to be interested unless it's busy. And that's dangerous because you need to have contrast in a track in order to make it meaningful. And to be fair to Hikaru Utada in this, they did kind of build and grow stuff as we went along, to be sure. It's just one of those things. So I'm glad to have listened to it, and I think it was a good cover. The progressions that we had there, the rhythmic flow of the second halves of those hook lines, I wasn't a fan of because we double timed it or sped it up. But aside from that, it was an honest effort, and I appreciate the work that went into trying to make it engaging. So thank you to Dinahe, Blue Dinner Box, for that request. I genuinely appreciate it. It was an interesting piece of music for sure. So what do we have next? We have a song after this track from Hikaru Utada titled "Fly Me to the Moon," a song from Paul. And how are you doing today, Paul? 793 hopefully you're doing well today. Thank you for the request. What do we have from you? And also, before I continue, Blue Dinner Box, you've said you like the original more too. Thank you. I will admit, the Evangelion, Galleon or Galleon? Is it Galleon or Galleon? Evangelion, the outros to that anime with the different versions of Fly Me to the Moon, I think I preferred those ones to the original Frank Sinatra one. Or I don't know if he was even the original person who made it, but like, there's a bit of kind of weirdness going on in that original Frank one with some of the instrumental parts there. I think just simply because we're trying to give the band more presence, and I think that's totally fine. I just more like the chord progressions in the hook. So like I'm kind of allergic to other stuff involved. But anyways, thank you. I'm just glad I'm not the only one, I suppose, but also it's okay to have different opinions. Thanks to Paul for your request. What has Paul brought us today? I'm not sure. We will find out. Hello, Judith. How are you today? Welcome to the live stream. Hopefully you're well. This is Khalil Fong with Dear Ocean featuring Diana Wang. So let's get that going. And thank you to Paul for this request.
深处，闪烁出莫难理解的温度。收藏着回忆，有万年的旅程记载，千里外送回爱另一个世界。
I like the way we go into that. And how the synths go, the guitars go up with the vocals there.
深藏在你怀里是一种关怀，漂浮在你的宇宙，我着迷了。
你最知情，自然规律追回自己。是你，或者是对你然守候着无敌的意义。
Great panning of the guitar there, that was interesting automation wise.
完美期待，去之前都无知未来，我们总觉得是非都明白。想要回到原来的节拍，不存在，为身在肺腑之言，在深渊水晶连缅怀那曾经。 时光的沙丘，停留于被遗忘的逆流，未来的誓言着这年代。
It's great for things to come down to this point about dynamic range.
决定到永远。深藏在你怀里是一种关怀，漂浮在你的宇宙，我着迷了。
I think that they both sing well, Khalil Fong and Diana Wang, because this was Dear Ocean from Khalil Fong featuring Diana Wang. They both sing well. They have a great chemistry together. Harmonically, they resonate in a way that's very satisfying. They have compatible textures with their voices and timbres, and when they are taking turns on the mic, I need to actually get comfortable with this. There we go. I need to actually learn to sort of like have a straight back. I don't know why. I've got terrible posture because I like lean in, but I have a fucking boom mic. Why do I do that, right? I think part of it is that I'm like nervous about going and doing this and getting too close. Sup, Jacob? How you doing? Welcome to the live stream. But either way, look, I think that this song from Khalil Fong featured Diana Wang is vocally very competent. I'm not entirely sure what the track is about, aside from the fact that it's about Dear Ocean, primarily because there were no captions and I'm not familiar with the language. But I nonetheless listened to the story that they told. It sounded gentle and relaxed and pretty, and it matched a lot of the textures and tones and components within the track really well. A few of the things I really appreciated within this track were the guitar parts. There was a lot of range to the jazzy implementations of those crispy sounding rhythm parts on the sides. The bass line underneath worked well with the triads and root notes involved. I think that the drums were relatively minimalist, which allowed the vocals to have more presence and didn't oversaturate the mix. There were enough different guitar riffs to make it more kind of enthralling the entire time and to not sort of overwhelm or kind of like confuse things. But they also had a bit of complexity to them emotionally, but they're also very bright at the same time. It wasn't to the point where we're trying to maybe sort of like tarnish the majorish overtones within it. It was more to an extent where we were trying to just appear a bit more kind of classy. I think it was kind of like a classy happiness. And there were organs as well, focusing on those root notes of the chord progressions there. Some interesting triads there. We also had some bluesy implementations of the lead guitars and spaces doing some call and response. And there were also these interesting lead synths that were in unison behind some of the vocal melodies. Da, 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 da. You know, those kind of parts in the hook lines, which were kind of fun. So there's a sense of awareness between the vocals and the arrangement around them. So ultimately, I feel like the components within this track were quite well connected. The overall theme was pretty and friendly and upbeat and cheery, even with some of the bluesiest tones. It was more just sort of like for a slick, cool guitar riff, I think. Nothing too heavy. And ultimately, I think there was some more sort of contemporary stuff going on with some of the tremolo, going on with some of the kind of glitchy guitar parts. Great track, though. Thank you to Paul7931 for recommending a song from Khalil Fong titled Dear Ocean featuring Diana Wang. So that's cool. That was done. We have completed that track. I enjoyed it. Last time I said Paul7931 says last time I said I wanted to recommend a female singer who has a good relationship with Khalil Fong, and she is Diana Wang. Sweet. Yeah, I think that they do. I think they seem to have a really positive working relationship, and it shows in their chemistry as musicians. It's not an ego project. There's nothing more to it simply than trying to make phenomenal music, I think. Blue Dinner Box says this was also made for Evangelion. Oh, I thought that was like a cat or something, but there was actually a police siren somewhere. The previous track, I'm assuming Blue Dinner Box. If so, that's good to know. I'm not surprised that that was included because there were some really wild variations of Evangelion, sort of like Fly Me to the Moon theme, and some of those outros are really wild. There were like different versions for each episode, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm not surprised if it was a bit alternative, but that's cool. Thank you. I appreciate that context. Thank you to Judith for the request we have next. This track is not sure. We're gonna figure it out. I can't believe I've just clicked that I can just put my mic. If I put my mic up, I'm gonna have better posture because I'm sitting here doing that. Why do I punish myself? Why do I do it? This is from an act named Sakamoto Ryuichi, titled Energy Flow, if I'm not mistaken, thanks to Judith. So let's do it. Let's go. 8.5 mil plays, that's cool. 17 years ago. I like the interesting chords in this. Are there parallel majors or minors in there sometimes? I think that was a parallel major. It gets so small here, doesn't it? Ah, gorgeous. Perfect example of how putting something into a higher range makes it sound a whole lot more delicate. Gorgeous. Grey run ascending like that. Ah, cool. Fantastic. So that was Ryuichi Sakamoto with Energy Flow. So I think that what the piano was trying to represent was the ebb and flow of that energy. You have varied, lovingly textured triad and extension parts on both hands, which intertwine and interchange as you move between chords loyal to the key signature, but also some occasional parallel majors and minors. And then once you kind of build into this sort of sense of anticipation and sort of tension with like some of the diminished minor 7 flat 5s that you have involved, it comes down. Bum, bum, da 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 bum, bum. I think what it's trying to communicate is when it goes down like that, that's the energy building back up, and you're kind of taking a moment to sort of recover before you have another go at it. I love the fact that there is dynamic range within this performance. I appreciate the fact that for a 4-minute 8 piece, it is structured into different sections, that it never stays on one idea or concept for too long, that it does not just stay within a similar rhythm. It experiments with quarters, eighths, and sixteenths, as well as occasional freeform up-tempo stuff, pregnant pauses, those kind of things. Maybe even some fermatas occasionally. We explore the entirety of the keyboard. We're not sort of in the same position the entire time. Sometimes we go lower. Other times we're a bit higher. And it's a reinvention of the original motif in part because we are trying to change the presence of it by affecting its pitch. And that is important because for anyone who is wondering how to introduce more variety or diversity into a piano instrumental, you just need to explore and try different parts. And if you want a lighter, more delicate part, you can go into that higher range and be able to achieve that. And this is what Ryuichi Sakamoto is aware of. They're aware of the power of the different parts of an 8-octave piano. And you don't even need like a grand to be able to do this. Any key that has weighted keys, you can get that. It's a dynamic range of this as well. Things are not the same loudness all the time. There are variations in the intensity of the notes. You go between pianissimo as well as forte or fortissimo parts. And you lack resolution in the harmony until the final stages. And even then, you maybe don't offer it then because you don't want it to be an easy finish. The song, the energy flow is not finished yet. It's simply that next stage before the next chapter. So I think with the minor leaning, it's like a sense of sadness, but it also invokes a sense of curiosity. And it's almost like the quieter parts are trying to build us back up to be able to go at it again. And I appreciate the attention to detail in regards to texturing those different and more intense parts, all these interesting note patterns on both hands. We aren't just playing sort of chords on the left, we're flowing between. We're clearly a very adept pianist. And for the reasons I've listed, plus probably more I've missed, it's a wonderful composition. And I'm appreciative to have been able to listen to it. So thank you to Judith for the request we have here. of Ryuichi Sakamoto. This track titled Energy Flow. Apparently, Judith, you listen to it when I'm missing someone. I can relate to that. I can understand why that might be the case, and I feel you on that. Whoever you're missing, I hope that you get to see them soon. We have 3 tracks in the queue now. So that's cool. What other tracks do we have? So we've done 3 so far today. We have another from Judith. It is a delicate performance, Jacob. And I feel like I think that that's important. Because you need to be able to invoke that sense of humanity with an instrument that needs it. So this is the second track from Judith today. This is titled David Tao and Crowdloo with That Girl. A story about 2 dudes talking about that girl I met ended up discovering they're talking about the same girl. Yeah. Has that ever happened to any of you? It's happened to me. It's crazy when that happens. It's a small world, isn't it? You get in trouble if you're not careful about that kind of stuff, eh? But here we are. Thank you to Judith for this. Just to mention it, while I'm happy to listen to it again, I think I have reviewed this before, but it'll be good to hear it again.
She's my girl, yeah. She's my girl. Hola， 最近还好吗？ Hola， 好久不见啦。今天忙不忙？
The rim shots, the guitars, organs are great, man.
好巧我也遇见一个女孩，让我想停下来。她有最真的笑容，最美的想法，我100分的女孩。那个女孩留着长长的头发，穿着白色的衬衫，很专心听我说话。她的身上有着淡淡的玫瑰花香，认真分析着我的笑话，谁也不应该重回她的倔强。那个女孩说男生不要太帅，
Great harmonies in the Beltry was cool as well.
会唱歌的男生最让她崇拜，开个笑就停不下来，每本书只会读到一半，没想到我们会喜欢同一种女孩。What a girl, what a girl. 那个女孩
That kind of barbershop doo-wop stuff in the background is kind of a nice touch as well.
Hola， 好久不见啦。Hola， 最近还好吧？最近忙不忙？想不想谈谈我说的那个女孩？让我先说说我那个女孩，她最近有点怪，总是看着我发呆，常漏接电话，我真的没有办法。那个女孩刚刚剪断了头发，还是穿白色衬衫，在专心听我说话。她的身上一样淡淡的玫瑰花香，认真分析着我的笑话，谁不应该宠坏她的倔强？那个女孩说明年想去，她现在想学吉他，想要写一首歌给自己来唱。她的小狗就叫做卢卡，她的生日是3月18，该不会我们 说的是同一个女孩。What a girl, yeah. What a girl, yeah, yeah. What a crazy girl. She's my crazy girl.
It's great to have a little bit of extra kind of activity in that organ section there.
既然结果是这样，那个女孩说男生不要太帅，但脾气不能太坏，会唱歌的男生最让他崇拜。那是他曾经说过的话，对你对我可能还对他，没想到我们会输给同一个女孩。就当做我们的默契吧，就当做我们的秘密吧，就当做我们从没遇见那个女孩。What a girl.
We're really sort of shifting with those bell trees at the end. All right, that was David Tao featuring Crowd Lou with their track "That Girl." As Judith has alluded to, the story about two dudes talking about that girl I met ended up discovering they're talking about the same girl. Yeah, Paul7931 says the idea behind the song is somewhat similar to the song "The Girl Is Mine" sung by MJ and McCartney. I've heard that one too. I think that this track belies any sort of competitiveness. I think it's just more like a kind of a, oh wow, that's crazy kind of tone from David and Crowd Lou here. It's not aggressive. It's sad that you'd even sort of think that'd be the first. It's kind of like, what? It's the same girl? What are you talking about? But interesting story. Great chemistry between the singers involved. Their vocal textures suit each other well. You can clearly distinguish each other in the mix. They've got different styles which allow them to sort of, but they still sit well with the arrangement. And yeah. I don't know what the story is about in its entirety. Judith has just said in the last chorus they decided to bury it for each other. So that kind of gives me the context I need to sort of understand it. I feel like with the way that we sang this track was more kind of like, oh, it was like more cheery and chirpy and kind of friendly sounding, which with the resolution that Judith has mentioned, I think it makes a lot more sense. If it hadn't resolved and if it was just that we were kind of annoyed about it, I don't think the tone of the vocals would have made sense, but that wasn't the case. So we showed solid vocal technique on both accounts. The harmonies that we had, especially as we went later on, we had the kind of doo-wop kind of barbershop stuff in the background. We had full-on vocal harmonies with both of them kind of interacting. The vocals were the focal point throughout this entire track, which makes sense. The guitar parts, the organs, the keys, the bass, the drums, everything else in there kind of niched in a way where it was meant to be poppy and bright and cheery and not too intense. And I feel like if you didn't know what the song was about, you wouldn't have picked that this was what it was about. And so I feel like this is more of kind of like a conservative piece that's more meant to be catchy and relaxed and kind of charming to listen to. Maybe it was how charming the woman was. I don't know. The kind of the whims of love, the whimsy of love as a concept. Maybe that's what the kind of theme was going for there. But I think there was a great sort of sense of shimmer and wonderment to the guitar parts. The way they were picked was really eloquent, and it had sort of a flamenco kind of fingerstyle feel to it. It was really pretty. The bass lines were very loyal to the chord progressions instantiated from the guitar arpeggios, as well as the key parts that were kind of either corresponding or providing a sense of sort of like harmony within the mid-range. The drums here, there were variations in the grooves there, but typically we had an eighth note pattern throughout a lot of this piece that was pocketing primarily to be able to give the vocals more of a sense of like focus throughout the piece. There were no competing alt lead elements here. We had enough variation compositionally throughout the track in order to sort of justify both its runtime of 4 minutes 27. Having two singers each singing a different verse also helped. It was nice for them to come together in the sense of it sounded like they were actually resolving stuff, which is cool. It was good to get each other's side. And I feel like if you understood the language natively, you'd have more of a kind of an intimate experience whether you'd be able to follow along with it. But I nonetheless, I liked listening to it. I thought the song was very pleasant. There were no rough or harsh edges to it. And I feel like the production was top notch. And again, they could both sing. There was no post-production kind of help with that regard. And I liked it. I don't really have much else to say about it. It's like positive feedback on it. And I don't really know what they could have done to improve it. So thank you to Judith for putting this piece forward. I appreciate it. It was majorish and it's kind of happy sounding. I often say that about music because there's a balance to be made between happy and cheesy that they managed to kind of come down on, I think, because they didn't have any harder kind of stuff going on there. If they'd been a bit too forceful with the major triads and melodies in there and tried to sort of push it too much, it might have been a little bit too kind of over the top, but they didn't have that. So it's cool. Thank you, Judith. I appreciate that. There's a bit of stuff happening on the chat. I'm just going to read through there really quickly. I'm glad that you enjoyed the piano concert. Paul79, Ryuichi Sakamoto's piano concert. I'm glad that you enjoyed the movie. I can imagine it would have been pretty incredible. And Jacob really likes Crowdler's voice, which is awesome. And apparently this is a classic David Tao style song. He loves the word girl. He does, doesn't he? He does like to use the word girl. And that song is an absolute classic and very playfully aggressive. This is more of a classic David Pop style hit that he's going for. Yeah, I can imagine that this is just meant to be sort of a fun angle, but it's more sort of like stuff that he's more comfortable with. Still a good track though. It can be both a track that you can kind of expect and be familiar with without it being less of a positive experience. It's tricky finding the balance. You either have to kind of really commit to either being like a surprise musician or being one where you're kind of the old reliable. I find that if you try and mix those two up, it gets a bit confusing for people. But yeah. What a girl as if it was my girl from Judith. That's an interesting angle. I hadn't thought about that somewhere. I hadn't thought about that before, but that's cool. Thank you. I appreciate that, Judith. The next track is from Jacob Good. So that's cool. Thank you for your request, Jacob. And what has Jacob got for us today? We will find out. Hey, Weezer. Is that your favorite song, Say It Ain't So? My favorite one is Hash Pipe. Apparently the song, according to Jacob, is about his stepdad and dad's alcoholism. I'm not a massive... So I'm going to preface this by saying I'm not a massive fan of the track itself. But, to be fair, I've never really explicitly stated my bias towards tracks I've been into before anyways, unless it's going to really affect it. I'll be reviewing this on the basis of, the actual quality of the music itself. It's more I got overplayed a lot when I was growing up, and I just kind of started to it was just a bit too much of hearing the same thing, you know? But thank you, Jacob, for this. I think the lyrics are clever. Interesting use of falsettos here. Very raw guitar tone, to be fair. You can hear the kind of scuffed parts of the guitar it takes. Not scuffed, but You know, like when like you strum a chord, but then you kind of like take your fingers off, or there's like kind of a clang or something like that. You can hear that in the background. It's definitely a live take, and I've got to show some love for that. It's authentic, man. It's not overproduced.
I can't confront you. I never could do that which might hurt you. So try and be cool when I say this way is a water slide away from me that takes it fuller every day. So be cool. Say it ain't so. Your joke is so
Great use of unison chords or chord bends as well.
Say it ain't so. My love is a life taker. Dear Daddy, I write you in spite of his silence. You cleaned up, found Jesus. Things are good. Also, I hear this bottle of Stevens awakens ancient feelings. Like father, stepfather, the sun is drowning in the blood. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Great to have a return to lead guitar from earlier with a bit of distortion to it.
Say it ain't so. Your drug is a heartbreaker. Say it ain't so. My love is a life taker.
So this is Weezer with the track "Say It Ain't So." Now that I kind of, because I'd had suspicions about the lyrics within like the interlude section, the kind of breakdown section before the solo part. But I didn't know what it was necessarily about, whether it was like a drug addiction. Well, to be fair, alcohol is a drug, but like if it was specifically like maybe like a drug, like heroin or something like that, or if it was like alcohol, right? When you talk about lines like "wrestle with Jimmy," yeah, it makes sense. So I think that the story is very personal to the singer, and it comes across very authentically because of that. It's a very it's not a pretty performance. It's meant to sort of really demonstrate the feelings that the person has towards it. It's meant to sound like they're struggling with it, struggling um, with what their father and stepfather went through, and the crying out that you have when they talk about drowning and stuff like that. It makes sense. It's very believable and it's very intense. And I think that you really need to listen to the lyrics in this one to fully get an appreciation of what they are trying to accomplish with it. I think that if you listen to this track passively, yeah, it works, but I appreciate the song more after actually taking the time to listen to the lyrics. And so, in what is potentially a rare thing for me, because I don't like to admit it often, this is one of those situations where the lyrics do kind of make the song. They kind of make sense in regards to like, well, I mean, to be fair, that it's more like the music matches like the struggle, like those unison bends there, that kind of raucous nature of the guitar tones and everything like that. Of course, the lyrics make the song, right? But it's just, I feel like you really get an appreciation for this track when you put all of those together. The music can sound or make more sense when you get that extra context. And so, with the understanding that we weren't going for like a sterilized, muted kind of performance there. It was like very kind of like it was all rockish kind of punk, kind of like it's that kind of a bit gritty with rough edges there. Was some interesting falsetto sections to be fair, and quite a good vocal technique. And I think that We weren't trying to hit all the words cleanly, or like, but that's basically, I think, because we're not trying to sort of, again, like, we weren't trying to. We were crying out for help. And often that stuff ain't clean. But still, I appreciate the work done on the vocals. I think that the guitar parts are on bass. There was enough range with the different percussive patterns, the bass line, even though it's quite slow. The guitar parts ranging between some interesting sort of clean riffs to the distorted kind of fuzzy chorus elements there, the heaviness of the hooks with the power chords. Moving into the different solo sections as well. Thought that was quite well handled there. Great voicing of that coming out of the last part again about the drowning and like it's just in the flood, and it makes sense. It's then you go back effortlessly back into that final chorus section and the song resolves. There's dynamic range, the performance is quite tight, and the band comes together for a song that's quite meaningful, and I think that is important. And I understand why people like it so much. The studio recording, mixing, mastering, again, it's not overproduced. It's not trying to be like a super smooth, polished, sort of like pop single. It's got, again, those same rough edges, but the kind of grittiness of this, again, makes it more believable, more authentic, and it comes through in a way that's very satisfying and makes sense for the genre as well as for the intent of the story and everything else. So I think ultimately, yeah, it's a great performance. I like the guitar parts, the vocals were handled, the story is intriguing. Thank you to Jacob for putting this track forward. Say It Ain't So by Weezer. I have a newfound appreciation for it. I still don't like it. I still don't like the song. I don't like that because I don't like that they went through it, but I appreciate the musicality of it. I feel sad that the person went through it. But I think, music is meant to always be happy all the time, right? And Judith, yeah, the lyrics do hurt. Some of the best music is the most visceral, right? It's like the Porter Robertson track last night, Don't Kill Yourself, You Idiot, right? It's just so blunt. But it works because you remember it, right? And yeah, enjoy it, man. Jacob, I feel you. I've never really gotten into the Pixies, but I feel Weezer and Nirvana. Yeah, Nirvana are good. I mean, I went through their entire sort of discog, or both of their studio albums and stuff like that. They've got some great music there, and that's definitely not super pristine and pretty and clean and stuff like that. There are some rough edges there and some kind of really kind of brutal performances, but they're still really good to listen to. It doesn't have to be pretty to be good. But we've got a track from Paul next, titled I'm Not Sure. We're going to find out. This is from Paul. And this is titled, got a link. I hope you enjoy your run, though, Jacob, with it. It's good to listen to some 90s stuff. There's a lot of great music from back then. Bands like Alice in Chains and stuff as well. I was never really a fan of Pearl Jam, but I also understand a lot of people like their music too. Just never really vibe with Pearl Jam too much. Like, technically their music's absolutely fine. I just didn't really find an emotional attachment to it. It's probably because I'm nostalgic for because I didn't grow up with it. I don't know. But this is from Khalil Fong. This is All Night featuring Diana Wang. So this is another track featuring Diana Wang. So that's cool. Let's do it. Thank you, Paul. It's a little more upbeat, a little more fun.
把音乐打开 DJ 专注的姿态，现在很自在，就让身体尽情摇摆，举起双手来，不协调也没关系，快点把偶像包袱全都抛弃，站起来，然后跳起来，眼睛闭起来，
Sub-layer high is nice.
别怪谁厉害，这不是比赛。 转一个圈，快乐就存在，不用再期待。就跟着节奏 have fun， 跳着舞没什么好紧张。
It's great to see them having fun.
放轻松，你不用太刻意。享受着 把心情放开，一股电流传上来，在云端的海，去北京那个1970的年代，每个细胞都愉快，转个圈快乐就存在，不用再期待。
Come and dance with me，
就跟着节奏
There's a consistency to it.
不解释不明，
跳着舞没什么好紧张，
在音乐里
放轻松，你不用太刻意，嘿，享受这气氛就趁现在。
So there's like this really subtle bass line in the upper range there that I can hear. The bass guitar is doing some real work in this track.
All night
All night,
you got to dance all night
all night, yeah.
you got to
You
groove all
gotta
night
groove with me.
you got to move
Gotta move, gotta move, gotta move, gotta move all night. 别管明天，只要今天精彩，让自己心态跟音符一样轻快，制造快乐。这一秒突然明白，哦，还不够。
我们要 party all night all night
All night, yeah.
you got to dance
You got
all
to
night
dance all night.
you got to groove
You
all
gotta
night
move with me, yeah.
you got to move
I gotta,
all night
you gotta, we gotta move all night, yeah.
you got to dance all
Gotta dance
night
with me. Well, everybody get on the floor and dance all night, all night.
got to move
You gotta, you gotta, you gotta, you gotta move all night, yeah.
What is happening? Is it UFOs? Fantastic sound design there. It really did seem sort of extraterrestrial at the end there, looking up at the lights and then sort of getting sucked into it. That was from an act named Khalil Fong featuring Diana Wang, Titled All Night. I thought that was great. I thought that song there was a consistency with the instruments present and the perceived loudness of it, which I feel it could have been adjusted occasionally. It would have been nice to have gone down a little bit from it, but they wanted to sort of make a jumpy kind of dance track where people sort of groove along to it, and in that sense, I have to sort of respect that hustle, that flow. I think at face value, there might have been a bit more. I'm assuming there's a bit more nuance to it, graciously, but basically about having a good time, being up all night, having fun, being sociable, enjoying the nightlife, etc. Just making the most of the opportunities that are present. Bit more upbeat than the Dear Ocean song that we had earlier on, although that was very pleasant. This was meant to be a bit more funky, implied by the bass line there, working between different octaves and stuff like that. Very kind of funky with the root notes going between the lows and mains. The drums there keeping up in groove and step with that. 8th and 16th patterns are plenty. And there are some interesting sort of on and off beat patterns as well, which I appreciated there. The guitar parts with occasional picked bits, but like relatively subtle in comparison to things such as the trumpets, for example, the brass there. Some staccato parts and then slow builds and great sort of control of volume there. And we had variation in this piece partly because of that. It was a very funky kind of groovy piece of music that made great use of both the rhythm elements and the low to mid range. But also it was the color of the vocals between Khalil Fong and Diana Wang that really stood out. I appreciate the effort made to not only continue to maintain that sense of chemistry we had in the previous track, Dear Ocean, but it's also that we appeared to be having more fun with it. There was a sense of grace there with the complexity of the harmonies within the chord progressions there, that showed the ability of both of these performers in a way that made it sort of seem quite effortless for them. And the melodies they sang were compelling when they played off each other. It was phenomenal. The bass guitar in particular, I think there was like an instrument in the upper ranges there, the mid to upper ranges, which is quite resonant and sort of gorgeous sounding. And I like that a lot. What I especially like about this piece is that they managed to find niches for stuff in a way where even if I would have liked a bit more sort of dynamic range to the track, it nonetheless felt like there was intrinsic development. But no, I take that back. I don't feel like there was development. I feel like we had a theme at the start and we kind of continue with that the entirety of the way. So I take that back. But yeah, no, solid vocal technique, interesting motif there. A lot of joy from the brass elements coalescing with the guitar, the keys, like the everything else going on within the mix, the bass and drums, and just in general, a very satisfying track to listen to. It does kind of make you want to dance. It's not too kind of upbeat and too in your face, but it does kind of have that sense of almost sort of like disco aesthetic that we used to have back in the 40 years ago now, or 50 or 40 years. I'm not sure when disco was necessarily prevalent, but either way, I thought it was great to have an alternative angle to Khalil Fong and Diana Wang's work. Thank you to Paul793, if I'm not mistaken, for this request. I appreciate it all night. That's cool. What do we have next? Oh, big stretch. Oh, that's a feeling. Oh, that's a good feeling. Oh, there we go. Stretching's good, man. Woof. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. So I'm wondering if we're probably going to need to stop commissions soon, but we'll keep going for now. We'll see how we do. Yeah. Sup, sweet Lily Love. How are you doing? Welcome to the live stream. It's going to get a bit busy. That's okay. I'm probably going to stop requests sometime soon, though. Alex Marino, seja bem-vindo ao Lex Luthor Brazil City Drinks Go New Balance. I'm not sure what that means, but welcome to the live stream, Alex. Hopefully you're having a good day. Let's continue. Rufo. Hopefully everyone watching this is having a good day today. Yeah, hopefully you've been having... Yeah, I think so. It might be, but thank you to Rufo for your request. What has Rufo got today? We have Kino Kote Koku. Okay, let me just have a moment. There we go. I think this is the first time that we've had a bot on stream. So that's an occasion. Welcome. Hello, bot. How are you today? What has the AI got for us today? What have our AI overlords got for us today? Okay, here we go. Hey, so here we go. Thank you, Rufo. This is, what is the track's name, though? Let's see if we can get that sorted before we get into it, because I want to focus on the song. Tokyo, capital of Japan. Cool. Let's do it. I should know that. I literally went to Japan recently. Oh, man. I like the synths and fuzziness of those guitars. It's a really interesting tone. Great variety with the drum grooves as well. It's cool to have the voice on the side though. There's like an ode to the storytelling, you know? Well, a response, I suppose. Yep. I mean, it's really compressed here, but it does build. It's very spicy in terms of the mixing. Like the guitar there. And that was this track, titled Tokyo from Kino Ko Teikoku, if I'm not mistaken. Hopefully that pronunciation was okay. What do I think this track's about? I mean, I can only ascertain or assume that it's about our impression of Tokyo as a city, as a place. And if that's the case, that's cool. It's a complicated city. I enjoyed being there, but there's a lot of different shades. I think that it's a performance that is led by a vocalist who's very comfortable, whether they're by themselves or among a massive, as both Jacob and Judith have mentioned, a lot of noise. And I enjoy the fact that we have that, variety. The difficulty with dynamic range can be, with a lot of tracks being quite loud by default, if you push too much, you just kind of ruin it. But here I feel like it's almost, there's just that extra bit of ceiling they can squeeze into in a way where it doesn't reduce the quality of the listening experience. They are unaware of the fact that they need to have quieter moments where the vocals are maybe a little bit more sort of like fragile or whatever. But like we sing with a sense of solid vocal technique and just also intent that keeps it well tied together throughout. And I think that we have a lot of interesting vocal melodies throughout this, whilst remaining sort of like stoic on the main sort of core hook lines and stuff. I appreciate the bop, 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 those parts on the side there. I thought they were great, as well as some of the other backing vocals on the side. There was a nice call and response between those parts of the stereo field. And then you go past the vocals and you talk about the track as a whole, which at 5 minutes, I think is well fleshed out. There's no filler in here. The transitions were seamless. The mixture of different guitar parts, the bass and drums there, and I'm saying it's predominantly guitar, bass, and drums, isn't it? there were like these kind of Strymon guitars with like a chorus or like a delay and reverb on them, which almost sounded kind of like key-like, but they were definitely guitar parts. Then you have the kind of fuzzy guitars and like the builds. Then you have the full bore kind of hardcore guitar and the drums have been boxed. They have been limited. Those drums, they hit and they smack. There's a hell of a kick to those kicks, right? But just they managed to get the different guitar layers and still niche them well with the kit, even when they do seem quite loud. That's testament to the expertise that's been shown in regards to the recording, mixing, mastering, the production stuff. But whether it's arpeggiated elements there or simple strum bits, lead lines, octave chords, power chords, or even that kind of really spicy, frazzly lead guitar section at the end of the piece there, which was visceral sounding, but nonetheless very interesting on the right side of stereo field. Like they managed to find the right balance there. And I adore the fact they managed to accomplish that. It's very difficult to get compressed stuff to sound good outside of certain genres. And in this part, even though it was quite noisy, I think they managed to balance it very well. The bass line on the bottom being very sort of formidable in that low end there, a bit of resonance in the low, but not too much there. It was very thick sounding and niche well underneath any of the guitar parts that were there. I think it sounded bigger than the instruments that were making it. The sum of the parts was handled well. Things were niched well in the frequency spectrum. The theme over top was almost like it was trying to show how maybe overwhelming Tokyo can be at times, whilst also the beauty of it in the quieter sections where there's a prettier kind of upper guitar parts. And the vocals are consistent with their belief throughout there. There might have been different angles. I'm not sure. I can't understand the language. But either way, and not as well as I need to be able to understand this, but either way, I think it was a fantastic song, well written, well structured, and it made, again, the most of its 5 minutes. And the studio recording, mixing, and mastering was tight. It was very much kind of touch and go with the level of compression and the pushing on the limiter, and there was pumping in this, but not in the way where it was detrimental to the listening experience. It kind of made sense in a way, but only because it was a sometimes thing. If it was the whole entire time, it literally would give you a headache. But they understood that and they balanced that. So, as my review of this track from Kino Kotei Koku, titled Tokyo, thank you to Rufo for your request. Now, while I remember, sup shredders, thanks for the requests so far. I'm going to be closing the queue now. So I'm going to be closing the queue now. I'll do all the reviews that I've received up till now. So I'm going to be closing the queue now just because I have to do work after this a bit later on. But I want to make sure I get everyone's songs done. Yeah, so I've got another 4 to go, which is cool. There's a good day for today. I think that's a good day for today. You know, it's been great to listen to a bunch of different tracks. Again, thank you to those of you so far who've submitted stuff. We have a track from Aqua24. I don't think I recognize Aqua24. I'm interested to see what they'll put through. I'm going to pin that message to the channel here. And also, I'm glad that Judith and Jacob, that you both enjoyed the piece. I know that you guys mentioned it above. I love the production, but it's a wall of noise and I hope it's very uplifting. A grand wall of noise is nice, Judith. And Jacob says, if bots are visiting you, it means your algorithm is working. Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse. It really is. I'm going to take it as a blessing today because I feel like it. Yeah. Okay, cool. Awesome. So hopefully Aqua24, if you're watching this, hopefully you're having a great day so far. Thank you for your request. Oh, you're putting lyrics. So I don't usually look at the lyrics in these like sections. I'll put the lyrics like how do I say this? I usually just take the track as is. If it has captions, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But yeah, complicated. But let's just get into it. We're going to do this track. So I always have a quick look over the lyrics before we since you've sent them through, but yeah. Not a dedicated one. Because we have to do lots of songs. This is from Rachel Liang, titled I'm Not As Brave As You Think. Okay. Okay. Let's go. Let's do it. All right. And apparently, according to Aqua, this is a classic ballad from my childhood in 2008 by a talented Taiwanese Aboriginal singer. And you're welcome, Aqua. Let's do it. You kind of get a feel from the way it's sung, though, right? The strings are so tender, right? Said it again. The drama, the tension in those strings, though, with the legato technique, man, it's wild. I hear those distorted guitars too, that's quite subtle. That was slick. Ah, right. Ah, fake out. Man, that pianist can play, can't they? Okay, so this is from Rachel Liang titled, I Am Not As Brave As You Think. Now, I've had a look through the lyrics really quickly, just whilst I was listening to that. I'll make it big so you guys can see it, just simply because this was sent through. So as I understand it, it's talking about how they are not as brave as you think they are. And it's like in regards to love, in regards to doing what you need to do with your life and everything like that. And it's more like they want to be loved, but it's difficult for them to be brave like that. And they sort of just want to be able to expose their vulnerability to this person and just be like loved by that person, to not have to sort of front and to not have to necessarily protect themselves or to be as hard as they need to be in order to get through it. Um, and it finishes on a I think it finishes on a minor chord predominantly because that person has not found that person to love them like that. So you get this feeling, and I know we're running. I need to go replace the battery. I know we need to do that in a moment, but I think this story is about someone who is trying to communicate. Yeah, I know you think I'm this person, but I'm not that person. I'm actually someone else, and I just want to be who I am and not have to put up a shell all the time. That's basically it. I think that Rachel's voice is stunning. They're a great singer. Really express themselves really eloquently throughout the track. Very easy to listen to. Great vocal texture and timbre. Nicely balanced within the mix. Great sort of like balance of different melodies and harmony. No, they're typically themselves. I don't think there was another vocal harmony. I think it was just Rachel the entire time. A lot of the harmonies came from the different string sections or the keys or even the guitar parts, bass and drums that occur later on. But as a ballad, it works incredibly well. It's very easy to listen to, and it sort of progresses and matures as we go on in a way that's very satisfying, with Rachel continuing to be the lead focus. Even when there is that guitar solo section a bit later on there, the guitar solo section is quite brief. We don't sort of stay on that for too long. Ultimately, very sort of like satisfying to listen to, and I'm glad that I don't think I've listened to much of Rachel's work, so I'm glad to have listened to it today. I think that the song itself at 4 minutes 08 is well fleshed out. You had the piano being the sort of the main accompaniment, and yeah, I think I get what you're saying there, Judith. Absolutely. I think that the piano being the accompaniment with how delicate it is and the quieter sections and how it builds up later on was very effective. And I think that it matched the intensity of the vocals quite well. There's a lot of color in those piano parts there. There were some major minor triads there with a minor focus, but there were also some extensions a bit later on, which illustrated a sense of emotional complexity to it, that things were not always as they seemed there. Bit of trepidation with some of the chord choices there. Interesting sort of balance of various sort of quote unquote feels to suit the mood there. The strings with how bold they could be sometimes, and also how the staccato-ish and how they kind of go over one another and stuff like that in the break section between like the chorus and then the second verse. I think it was a great shift there. It should have illustrated the sense of tension and disruption that they were experiencing and how much they just simply wanted to, again, to have that love and unconditional love. So the strings were definitely sort of pocketing until they had that space to be able to breathe, and then they made the most of it. The guitars, bass, and drums we had later on were sort of more to increase the overall perceived intensity. The track was sort of offering some more sort of like a groove and stability in the lower end. The distorted guitar has a bit of darkness in the mix there, going up into a really kind of shreddy lead section. Eventually, that is a nice sort of palate cleanser. Not that we need one, but it's just a great sort of change of pace from the more metered, balanced sort of performance we have at that point there. A bit of kind of a flurry of emotion there and amongst everything else. And then you kind of transition neatly to a quieter part, I think, after that, which was a great sort of vibe shift. And then we had, of course, the fake out at the end after the vocals ended with the piano sort of alluding to the fact that we had not necessarily found a resolution that we were looking for there. And then we were still not happy with the situation without needing to be explicitly told that by Rachel Liang. So the music is not only trying to support Rachel, it's also trying to give you additional information as you go along to sort of really kind of figure out what the situation is and how it ends. It's unresolved. But I think ultimately the motif, while it is sad, it's more than just a sad song. There is just so much more interesting stuff occurring that it's simply just being sort of minor key and like everything being kind of down the dumps there. There's tension created in some parts of the progressions there. There's a bit of edginess in certain elements there. But there's just, it's clear that they're crying out for help and they really just want that help. As Judah said, it's a call for love and care. And MNN1 says, I like the dramatic vibe of the song. Absolutely. For real, absolutely. It's part of what makes it special. But the studio recording, mixing, and mastering is absolutely sublime. I appreciate the balance of everything within the mix. I thought it was incredibly well handled, and they just they covered the fundamentals there. Things were well balanced. Things surrounded you in the stereo field there. There was never too much stuff at one point in time. There was a great balancing compositionally, but also there was dynamic range to it. So things weren't the same loudness all the time. It was nice and loud without pumping. And finally, Rachel Liang can sing. There was no overproduction there. But thank you to Aqua24 for putting this track forward from Rachel Liang titled I'm Not As Brave As You Think. Awesome. I'm going to change the battery quick. Yeah, so I'll be right back. Here we go. So I think we've got 3 more to do. 3 more songs to do after this. Here we are. That was not flattering, was it? That was not flattering at all. All right, do we have any icky stuff happening with the cameras? Nope. Awesome. Back to being small again. Yeah, I'm glad that Jacob and Sweet Lily Love liked the vocals. I agree, the vocals were well handled. Like, they can clearly sing very, very, very well. Let me just get that window up again. No, that's that window. That's that window. Cool. All right, but that was, yeah, Rachel Liang. What have we got next? I think we have as I mentioned, 3 more tracks. We got we got another one from Judith. Thank you, Judith. I appreciate that. Just to sort of like flesh this comment out, the protagonist sounds like a tough person in society, and she was afraid to ask for what she wanted, a partner to rely on, to let her be childish, to let her be weak and protected. Yeah, I feel you on that. Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to mention that in post. Thank you for your request, by the way. I really should have gotten water for this. I'm screwing my voice for the rest of the day, but that's okay. It's all for the love of music, you know? Nope. We need to go back here, and I've done this. Done 29 of these. Okay. Here we go. And there's 3 left in the queue, including Judith. And what has Judith got? Juno Mac. Last Night as an Executioner. Okay. All right. So what do we got? Yeah, that's a cough. So lyrics from the analysis, evil as a point of view. Yeah, I know. It's all right. I got 3 more of these. I can handle it. All right, let's do this. I know you've left some notes about the lyrics. We'll have a look at those at the end, Judith. But let's get started with Juno Mac. My last night as an executioner. Let's go. But thank you for looking out for me. I appreciate it. Oh, that's pretty. Interesting panning of the vocals there. Oh. Erhu? Or a violin, I'm not sure. Could be an erhu, could be a violin.
見慣夢中閃過喊冤的野狗，聽慣未知生也怕死的拍手，聽說巫術經變你本可以走，你揚手，我戰鬥，這雙手不理替何人何時出手，知你不甘活着如浮塵如豬狗，想我為過活卻像永沒法活夠生命，何物如植物劈走，這雙手剛殺了誰和誰又牽手，只怕在吻着看着這頸背後，想到這血肉為何沒有切口，誰令我收手下世放手，悲咒念
Interesting panning of those key parts.
沒人念我舊，一再做人後，積血可回到編奏。
Okay, so that was Juno Mac with their track Last Night is an Executioner. Now, before I go on to this, we've got some notes about this. From the album Evil's a Point of View lyrics written by Albert Leung, a legendary lyricist in Hong Kong. All lines rhyme with Al. The protagonist is an executioner. He struggles with the ethical issues between it to be unjust for executioner to judge whether one must go, and I don't want to off one's head when I know one might be wrongfully prosecuted. It came as a shock when he saw there was no cut on the neck of his loved one. Did I miss? He asked. All the struggle, distress, guilt, will the blood I shed carry me past the river to the other side? Reincarnation. Oh, okay, I get it. So as we just talked about, apparently this track is about an executioner and their difficulties with maybe like the consequences of their actions and whether people actually deserve it. And I think that there's something kind of beautiful about that. It's a very peaceful track from a vocal perspective there. We're not super intense with the way we express or emote. And I think that that makes sense. We're kind of retrospective a little bit. If we're too hard on ourselves, then we're just beating ourselves up for a reason that isn't necessarily beneficial. And if we're if we're wondering whether or not we left a mark on our lover's neck, it means we potentially didn't, which is good, right? Because you clearly don't want to hurt people if you don't. I mean, you shouldn't be hurting people even if you don't have to. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I think it's a story which is told quite well by Juno Mac, in respect to what I understand of it. The way that we sing is very peaceful sounding, really suits a lot of the low-key guitar, bass, drum, piano, and string elements within it. There's never anything that's too kind of in your face or abrasive within this composition. It's a song where there's lots of kind of flurries, a little synth kind of whispers on the side and stuff, and there's lots of sound design choices which make it a more intriguing experience, but the overall perceived intensity never kind of builds. It's like we're already kind of being a bit sort of meditative about it. And you get the feeling as we go through it that we're getting a sort of a better understanding of it. We also it's like a bittersweet experience because we understood we've potentially already done some things we shouldn't have, and it's like we feel sad for the mistakes we made, but it's also like we're learning so things can improve and we can avoid those mistakes in future if that makes sense. The vocal melodies we chose matched well with the choices on the different key elements there. There was some filtering of the different piano and key parts, piano and string parts as well, which made it a bit more sort of low key. And again, there was a lack of. It was almost like we were listening to this kind of peacefully underneath the night sky. It'd be great music for to listen to at nighttime. It's sort of a sense of reflection to that, if that makes sense. But I think the slow movements of the strings there, the twinkle of the stars in the night sky with the keys on the right hand, builds the foundation of the left. the bass line reinforcing those root notes in the low end there, but not to a point where it's just too much. It's still very gentle. The drums with the interesting sort of reverb, sort of like chains on those, making them a bit sort of spacey, was an interesting aesthetic there. If I just quickly just check through the track there. Yeah. Yeah, and again, the strings harmonize on the sides really neatly with the vocal lines on the mains there. And I think that although it's almost kind of melancholy with the way that it's represented due to the subject matter, but also due to the chord choice and the fact it doesn't, like, it gets happy, but it's like an extended happy, so you know there's a bit of complication to it. It's a really we're trying to world build, and I think that we made a song which makes sense. And even if I wasn't necessarily personally affected by it, I can understand why it's meaningful to people, and I respect the craft involved with combining the vocals with the keys and everything else. But yeah, thank you to Judith for that. To be frank, Juno is not exactly a great singer, but he got interesting ideas in all his albums, and he put great amounts of money together, great composers and lyricists for his projects, and I think that's dope. That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that, as well as the fact that it was kind of slow and melancholy as a protagonist was turning to Buddhism. Yeah, that makes sense. And I think it's great that we're exploring the complications of these really severe decisions that we have to make in regards to literally ending someone's life. I'm glad that we're examining that. I think it's interesting stuff to talk about. It really does make you think, whether the person you think is at fault for something is actually at fault for it. Cheers for that, Judith. That track from, again, Juno Mac, titled Last Night as an Executioner. We have a song from Jacob now. And what song is this? Nobody knows yet, but we will find out. It's titled Stevie Wonder's Fix Our Nation's Broken Heart. Now, I will note that I have listened to this song before. I have reviewed it. I think we even reviewed it last time, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm glad to have another listen to it. Primarily because I think it's important to sort of maybe even have a second listen to songs to kind of feel out if there's anything you feel differently about. It's criminal to me that it hasn't got more attention, but I also, in a sense, understand it primarily because it's a heavy thing for us to be talking about. But thank you, Jacob, for this.
Fix our nation's broken heart. Are we brave enough to try? Can we fix our nation's
Interesting drum patterns, actually.
And leave a better world behind? 'Cause if we listen to different thoughts and point of views, all my brothers and sisters, we don't have to lose humanity. We're family. So can we please fix our nation's broken heart? Children marching on the boulevard, tears are streaming down their face. Oh, the tension in the air is so bizarre. Love is gone without a trace. People pushing and shouting, fighting through the haze. And all this sadness, madness, help me take away the pain. It's gotta change. This can't stay the same. So tell me, please.
Great legato technique there.
Our nation's broken heart. Poverty and hopelessness. Can we do away with this? All we need is to be giving. For our daughters and our sons, there's the light in everyone. They deserve a new beginning. Yeah. Will the light we share survive the
Key change?
or will it slowly fade away?
Great use of hand drums there as well.
And swept away by crushing waves. We've been floating alone in a dark and pinnacle, 'cause there's a growing ocean of lies that we've been told to tear us down. But what I found is with our truth, compassion, and love, we can fix our nation's broken heart.
Great transition to a harmonica here. That'd be a hell of a harmonica solo though. Like, how do they do that?
Are we brave enough to try?
How do they do that quickly?
We must fix our nation's broken heart to leave a better world behind. We've come together with purpose far bigger than you and me. Don't have no time for hatred and negativity. It's you and me. We hold the key. So tell me, please, can we fix our nation's broken heart?
Great to have the harmonica return here.
Can we fix our nation's broken heart? I know and you know we must fix our nation's broken heart.
I mean, that's a hell of an intense song, right? It's very heavy material. That was Stevie Wonder with "Can We Fix Our Nation's Broken Heart." It's heavy primarily because like it's just seems like it's someone just watching from a distance and just looking at the chaos and just thinking, man, this is just terrible. I just want us to sort of be able to love each other again, right? Beautiful individual. I don't know much about the musician, like the person, but like their intent with the music seems really pure, and I think that there's something to appreciate here. It's despite our differences, trying to understand each other better, and doing what we can to kind of repair, because it's not just limited to the States. Lots of parts of the world are divided at this point in time. You know, we're experiencing it really heavily in New Zealand at the moment. So I feel like at this point in time, more than ever, it's about trying to sort of like go back to trying to understand each other a bit. But like at the same time, I think it's more than just the story. It's also Steve Wonder's vocals. They're so earnest and so authentic, and it's just him singing into a mic, telling a story, reaching out to people. We chose really interesting vocal melodies throughout the chorus and verse parts, but just them alone, surrounded by other musicians trying to play a song with them. And I think that it's great. Beautiful track. Vocals are handled well. Great solid technique. A different voice to when he was younger, but that's obvious. You know, that's the thing. He's been doing music for a really long time, so it makes sense that his voice would age. Still handles vast majority, if not all of it, very, very well. There's hand drums and there's guitars and there's organs and there's bass and like sort of more hand drums, percussive elements there. Guitars strumming along with some interesting arpeggiated elements as well. The bass line following along with the arpeggios and root notes of those guitar arpeggios and chords there. The hand drums work between like quarters and eighths, maybe some 16ths and occasional 30 seconds, and some of the faster kind of interlude bits or transitions. The organ is very subtle within this. We're not extending. We're not trying to make this more of a kind of like, look, I can play the organ situation where we know that Stevie Wonder can play. But it's more of a kind of like a mutual kind of let's just come together and just make great music together kind of experiences, which is why I feel like, the harmonica is a great foil to the voice, but it's like a separate instrument to all the other parts in the rhythm section because they're all working together, I feel like the harmonica, that solo was incredibly well played. It was very technical, very tricky to do, but it sort of like kind of mirrored a lot of what was going on within the main vocal melodies of the track, so it made sense because of that. It wasn't alien to it. It was just a separate version of it that was additive to the listening experience and was a nice sort of foil. And the fact it returned near the end for a slightly shorter one, going in between Stevie Wonder and Calling and Responding, was very satisfying. There was no filler within this track. At 4 minutes 38, it was well fleshed out. There were seamless transitions between chorus and verse sections there. Again, there was also a solo section, which was a nice sort of foil at that point. It kind of like spiced up the track a little bit, but not in the way where it, like, there was a lot going on compositionally, performatively, most if not all of the time there. But there was dynamic range to the various instruments and the way they played things. So it didn't just all seem super intense all the time. But they'd all been the same loudness it would have been, but they're professional musicians who understand the nuance involved and required in that situation. The theme overall was friendly. There were some parallel major and minors in there, which kind of evoked a sense of wonderment and sort of mystique, but at the same time, it was warm with the glow of the mid-range and the way that the chords were played with some major overtones there. A little bit of extension was the harmonies occasionally, but like weren't trying to overcomplicate it. It was more just of a kind of like collective effort to present a really sort of gentle, caring sound. And the way the vocals fit in over top of it or within it and everything was present and easy to listen to was just the icing on the cake there, the way it was written. But also in terms of production, the studio production for it, it was really well handled there. Really easy to hear everything in the mix. The leveling was fantastic. The way things were spread around the stereo field was really wonderful as well. The music surrounded you in the headphones. No weird resonant frequencies in the frequency spectrum. The leveling was tight. Vocals were great and present in the mix as well, and it was nice and loud, and there was dynamic range. So overall, professional grade recording. I think it deserves more love, and thank you to Jacob for putting this forward. I appreciate it. It's great to be able to review it again. I feel like this was a bit more sort of like detailed than my previous one because I was listening to it for the first time. But anyways, it is a sensitive songwriting. It's a very nice song with very sensitive songwriting from a legend, and I can't ask for more. Exactly, Jacob. I feel you on that. Sweet Little Love says, I didn't even know Stevie Wonder was still making new songs. He still sounds great. Yeah, for sure. And Judith says, I will get sweet tooth from listening to much Stevie. He's such a sugar. He is. A lot of his music is pretty good to their play, though. And if you want to up your instrumental skills, it's probably worth having a go at some of his tunes. They're very, very cool. And Jacob finally says he's been one of the nicest person as testified by other musicians, which is great. I like that. I like the fact that, you know, in this day and age, we're kind of cursed with often learning a bit too much about our heroes. And so it's fantastic to know that they are just sort of like chill and that they are actually decent people and stuff. You don't expect them to be perfect, but there are some horror stories out there. And it's great for that to not be a situation where, fingers crossed, that has occurred. But thank you to Sweet Little Love for this final request of today. Apparently, this is a track, this is an original from Sweet Little Love, and it is titled Emergency. So let's go. Let's do it. Emergency. It's upbeat. Great build here with the synths. Great. Yeah, it's solid. There's enough variety in there to keep it entertaining. It kind of sounds like an emergency siren with that riser there, right? That was great. Honestly, that was Sweet Lily Love with their track Emergency. I think it's an original. And so thank you to Sweet Lily Love for that request. Just having a look through the lyrics, it's pretty sort of I understand what it's about. It's about being up late at night, wanting someone to call you. You're sort of desperate for that. It's an emergency. You can't get the person out of your head. I feel like most people are going to be able to relate to that. You know, you've been in that situation before. I think the vocal style from Mary Lova, if I'm not mistaken, was great as well. They harmonized really neatly with the backing arrangement, and had their own voice in the mix. And there was a sense of urgency to the way we sung, which made sense with the chords were putting forward, as well as like the intensity of the bass line and drums and everything like that. So I think that was dope. And ultimately, yeah, we handled it. It was great. I think that so like the vocals were handled with great technique shown there. The story made sense. It was easy to understand what's going on there. The way that it was composed and structured with a mixture of the synths, the bass, and the drums and keys and stuff like that was palatable. There was a diversity within the arrangement. Things were not the same intensity the entire time. You had peaks and falls and stuff like that, but not in the way it was predictable or kind of overdone. You had rises that were different lengths as well, which I appreciate. Things weren't just there wasn't the same length of rises. There was more tension from those longer holds like later on, which was cool. And that kind of sounded like an emergency siren, as I mentioned before. Um, the groove of the drums was hypnotic. It just pulsed it, put you forward. The core note accent was strong and bombastic, and it was groovy to sort of like nod your head along to and kind of sit with. You could definitely dance to it. The bass line pumping underneath that was really sort of satisfying as well. It had a great sort of energy and flow to it. And there was a lot of stuff happening with like the pads and the synth leads on top as well there. They weren't the entire time, but when they were, it just got very kind of full bore. And I feel like this is a track which is clearly very well thought out. There's a lot of attention to detail, and we've put a lot of effort into trying to make it compelling for people, especially for those that are familiar with the genre. But I feel like it's not too alienating for those that are unfamiliar. Like even if you hadn't heard the song before, you'd be like, "Oh no, I can get behind this." It's kind of it's energetic and it's friendly and it's sort of trying to sort of like suck you in, and it works. It's snowing outside. It's actually snowing. There's actual snow outside at the moment. They said it was going to snow, and it is. So I think that's awesome. That's fun. That's a thing that's happening outside. There's just a burst of snow. You're welcome, Sweet Little Love. I think ultimately it just ticks the boxes. I think Sweet Little Love, you've been putting through stuff for a while now. I've been reviewing your stuff for like a couple of years now, if I'm not mistaken. And we've just gotten to a point now where I feel like if I listen to your tracks, it's going to be well produced, and the leveling and studio side of things is great. And that pulse, that tempo there, that urgency is matched with the speed of it. Yeah, no, it's really well done. It's really solid. So, yeah, ultimately, I think it's really well handled, and I think the length of it is appropriate. We had, and like, it wasn't too long. There was no filler, and yeah, it was great. I'm just gonna put the art up here for that. Actually, I'm not sure what the art for it is. I don't know if that's the channel art at the moment. If I go back slow, there we go. But either way, thank you to Sweet Little Love and everyone else who's put through requests today. As this is the conclusion of this $5 song request live stream. We've had requests today through from Dinnerhay, Paul7931, as well as Judith and Jacob and Aqua24 and and Sweet Little Love. Cheers to all of you for those. Thanks to all those of you who also just came to sort of hang out and listen to music. I appreciate that too. Hopefully, you guys are having a great Monday or Tuesday, whichever day it is. Hopefully, you have a fantastic week. I will see you guys in a couple of days. We'll be doing another one of these on Thursday. I will probably be getting a couple of Patreon videos done today as well. So if you're waiting on those, that'll be done today as well. Or like I'll be doing one today and then one tomorrow, I think. But just in general, stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next live stream. Spiderhands out. 3, 2.